great. If not, as always, hope you're doing better. So I kind of messed up. I forgot to put it on the horizontal um, landscape, and now we're vertical. So saying this, maybe we'll redo this again at some point horizontally, but we did not do a Friday night live Q&A because I kind of wanted to do something different here for you guys, which was not the vertical. I wanted it horizontal, but I wanted to try to do one in the fish room. We'll see how this works. I'm actually sitting here. Let me flip you guys over with the door open here at the barn, and you guys can see in the fish room. So hopefully the service is getting through here and not the metal building. But let me know how the quality is. Hello, everybody there in the chat. Aquarium Fantasy 3G, what's up, my dude? Says Aquarium Fantasy says I'm not looking forward to another hurricane. Yeah, so we just got done, Dylan. We had one the month before. Which one was that? I think that wasn't Idalia, was it? And then Helene just went through, and then now I can't remember what they're naming this new one. What was it? Milton or something like that. Supposedly going to be coming through again. So I don't know. Hopefully not. Hopefully not, though. Dean Stevenson says, I bet the hurricanes ain't nothing nice. Prayers for all. Yeah, they're not. They really tear stuff up. Especially like what is crazy is just how bad a lot of that has affected the Tennessee and North Carolina area, and just what all's been going on with that. And my hearts and prayers go out to them because they got the worst of it. A lot of the coast here just absolutely destroyed on the West Coast. And we had a little damage, but thankfully, like, it was nothing compared to what some have. And unfortunate for those who have had it. It was terrible. Especially those flood landslides. Like, those things are crazy. It's hard to tell when something like that's going to break out. Just wipe your house away. But Thomas G, what's up, my guy? Glad to see you in here, man. I was actually thinking about you the other day. I ain't seen you in here for a while. Crisp image and audio. That's good to hear. Jonathan says, do your fish respond differently when you have a hurricane? I know when it's raining and the barometric pressure drops, encourages spawning. So yeah, a lot of people have that same experience where, like, the fish know it's what you're saying there with the barometric pressure. There's something with that in their lateral line that kind of like really get them going and encourages them to spawn. Unfortunately for me, like, my spawning methods is I have to move fish around to get the eggs, so I should probably be moving a lot of fish around to get some babies going. That's actually on my list of to-dos. But I haven't seen anything like specific since I don't target breed a whole lot, if at all, just because I have so much going on. Matter of fact, sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. It is what I create, though. But I don't know. Every time I look at it, and it's like, it's pretty awesome, pretty worth it. Well, hello, everybody coming into the chat, and this is a Q&A, so that's why I figured I'd do it on a Saturday too. Maybe see if more people had time off compared to the Friday nights. But I guess a lot of people are used to the Friday nights because there's not nearly as many people here. But it is what it is. I just thought I'd do something different. So I don't know how well this timing and doing these will stick on Saturdays. Maybe I could do both. Maybe I should be doing a lot more live streaming than I actually do. Because I guess there's always stuff to talk about. I just got to offer my time more to you guys. Dean Stevenson, good to see you in here, says, sure ain't like Indiana with the occasional tornado or snowstorms, is it? No, I mean, I will take actually these hurricanes over those snowstorms. Those snowstorms, they suck. And if you got stranded in a snowstorm, that's one way I would not want to go is by the cold. At least I'd be in a warm enough spot that I could go somewhere else. And luckily, we had the privilege to be able to escape the hurricane too. So if something dramatic did happen to where it could have harmed us, we were at least away from it. Which we'll ride it out usually as long as it's under a Cat 4. It starts hitting that Cat 4 territory. It's too iffy. I remember that last hurricane. Oh, it was Debbie, Hurricane Debbie, that came through. She was only like a 1 or 2, but I swear, just laying in that um house because it's a mobile home technically, like three mobile homes tied together, and like you can just hear it and feel it, and it was pretty wild. We even had to get eaters kids too, but that house is rated for a lot stronger storms. I mean, it was mild enough. I went out there and did boxing training in it. But yeah, I would not want to add snow to all that wind and destruction. Christina Morris says, Lucas, I wanted to ask you what TDS you keep your guppies in inlers. So I actually keep them at a lower TDS than I probably really should. They're under 200. Preferably, you want to be over 200. The reason why I think I get away with it is the fact that there's a lot of mineralization, lime, iron, and sulfur, and other things like your GH and KH that is in the water that comes from the limestone around. So I do get away with it. That, and I put that in the tanks too. Not all the tanks, but that does help because it still gives some kind of, there's enough acidity in the water to break down that mineralization still. But I've seen them in like 1100 TDS where they were in like fossilized water. It was really wild. So when you get too soft, they don't tend to breed as much. Like the ones that I have outdoors here, they don't really breed as much because I think of the rainwater just diluting everything. It's too soft. There's tons of space. I don't know why they don't. Unless something's predating on them that I don't know. But I was lucky to catch that question because it didn't even have a question mark. So if you do got a question, definitely helps to throw a question mark behind it so I don't miss it. Dean Stevenson says, so Lucas, my filterless tanks aren't doing super. Lost 4 tanks of guppies. Not sure what happened. First the adults, then the smalls. No fungus or anything. Huh. So how long have they been filterless? Like, what has changed recently? Were they just like overpacked? Or was there just a few guppies in there? Did they breed out? Sometimes, actually, quite often, this actually happens to me where I'll take some guppies from one tank and some guppies from another tank, and for some reason, they just won't get along. And you'll almost end up with just like a survivor pair who just wants to breed out. I found this happens with Tanganyikan cichlids a lot too when I move them around. So potentially that. I don't know if you have any survivors at all. If you have like no survivors, then is there something that could have tainted the tank? Because it's not the no filter thing. Because I mean, I could show you tanks full of guppies right here that have no filters. I don't know how well internet will do with me coming in here. I actually took a bunch of their babies out. I had to split them over here. I do think without a filter with guppies that they're more vivacious on how they want to eat and stuff. So maybe they predate more. But to take out a whole crew like you're talking about, that's a whole nother story. 9 p.m. in the UK, that's actually a pretty good time. Good to see you in here, House Pisces. Oh, you guys coming in? Jeff Stever, what's up, my dude? Been meaning to email you, see if you wanted those those containers. But I hope you're doing well. Glad to see you in here. I guess you can catch Saturdays. A little better time for you. Figured it'd be something different than the Friday night live streams we've been doing forever. Dean Stevenson says, I think it might be an ammonia spike because it was from bringing them in from their outdoor tubs. Well, yeah, eventually, like after some die, that will cause some ammonia strike spikes. But there's also a thing if you haven't had enough fish in a tank for a while, like there's some kind of cycle in there. And I don't know if it's just a nitrogen cycle or not, but it's what they commonly consider it to be. But if you start off with a ton of fish, it's a lot harder to get them to live in a new tank. So you got to start with a few, then add a bunch. I don't know why it is that way, but it is. There's something in there that's cycling, which is normally considered the nitrogen cycle. And why, like, if you got a brand new tank, it's best to start off with just a couple fish. And then after their waste goes, and maybe it is an ammonia thing. Maybe there was so much waste from their ammonia, or so much ammonia from their waste that it actually ended up being a issue because there wasn't enough beneficial bacteria in there to actually take up and absorb that ammonia. Now plants can help with that, but if there's enough beneficial bacteria in there, you shouldn't even need plants. Well, good to see you in Echo Delta, and glad you were able to catch this live. I was hoping on having it on a Saturday, more of you guys would have time off, and no 4 p.m. is kind of midday, but I think it's when a lot are unwinding on the East Coast and kind of like around noon on the West Coast. 9 p.m. in the UK, so that's decent. Mr. What's in the Cooler says, hey LRB, do you have Discord? Or if not, think you may soon occupy that media space as well. So I do have a Discord, but it was mostly for gaming back in the day, which I don't do anymore on there. So I've done all that Discord stuff, and personally, honestly, I don't want to do a whole lot of stuff on Discord because now I've already got YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Luckily, Instagram and Facebook kind of linked together. And it was actually at one point I was mostly only doing YouTube, and that was about it. But then everything started getting tied up on YouTube here, and wasn't really getting the reach that I was trying to get to. And so I started doing other social medias. And well, that actually mostly came from having to do short content. So vertical content like this, if it wasn't for TikTok and YouTube forcing me into shorts, I wouldn't even be messing with the other social medias. But since I make shorts for YouTube, I throw all those on the other social medias. It's just hard for me to find the time to do all that. You know, owning 40 acres and just all the things we build into it, I like to dream big, but that also takes time, especially if you want to grow and just maintain and keep up with it. So I'm learning to balance a lot of this right now. And I don't think I have room to do Discord and balance that in. And I don't even know how many fish people are on there. Dean Stevenson says the tanks had only been set up for a week. Yeah, that would be my guess then. That starting off that new tank with too many fish probably was ammonia that burned them out because there wasn't enough beneficial bacteria. or plants to absorb it. And you can't water change your way out of that either. You've got to have that beneficial bacteria in there. Steve G says, "Do you have a go-to snail you prefer over any others?" Um, like I like my ram's horns. They're my favorite. I've got MTS snails and I've got pond snails. The pond snails, they kind of get wild a little bit. They're cool too though because they look like little Yodas when they get bigger. MTS, they got their own job of like sifting the bottom and stuff up. But I got this one tank that I swear like my MTS and my pond snails have like crossbred or hybridized in. It's in my Taiwan lily tank, and they seem to really like to eat plants. The ramshorns aren't as bad. They'll all get to a point though where they'll like population boom and then kind of die out and then learn their normal population. Happens with all those snails. It's one issue with snails that a lot of people encounter, and that's why I mentioned that. Jose says, "Hi, what happened with your last video? Not available anymore? What do you mean? My last video should be available. I don't know why I told you that, but yeah, it should be available." Steve G says, "Do you have a go-to?" Oh yeah, I already read that. I don't know how I got to that question anyway. Wonder what video you're talking about. David Atkins says, "LRB, when planting new stems, should I give the, the on trim from the bottom of the stem to encourage root growth?" So I'm not sure. You kind of mistyped there. But yeah, you want to trim off the bottom leaves to your trimming. So say you got your stem plant yay big, cut it right in the middle or however big you want it. Depends on your scape. But take that cutting and then you'll have usually a couple leaves down towards the bottom. Go ahead and remove those. You don't have to. I mean, I've planted it without it, removing them because even if they do break down, they just become new dirt over time, which the roots can feed off of. But also the roots will start popping out of those nodes you cut the leaves off of too. So, but either way, that plant is gonna root over time. The which one's even faster as far as cutting it or not cutting it? Who knows? I don't know. Steve G says I did have a water pump get blocked by baby pond snails once. Interesting. Hope that ain't what's happening in my pumps. Terry LaPierre, good to see you in here. Says, "LRB, what size tank would you recommend for the first time shrimp keeper? And please describe the process of setting up the tank." So I would actually stick around a 10-gallon or a 20-gallon. I want to go much bigger than that just for the fact that they breed so much. And if you have like such an amount of shrimp that you just don't know what to do with, then the bigger the tank you have, the more you're going to have of that. Now, if you do have, like, say, you want to use it as fish food or actually sell them or something, then yeah, you can go bigger. But being a first-time shrimp keeper, you're just kind of dabbling with it. Neocardinas are going to be a lot easier than most of any of those shrimp out there, and just try not to overcomplicate it because I know how it is, like getting into new kind of things, especially when I first started getting into shrimp. We didn't know nothing about shrimp. Like this was when the bees and crystal bees started coming out, and then the just red cherries, and nobody knew anything about them, how to keep them, and you would hear this, that, and the other. I actually spent a lot of time earlier in those years, like figuring all that stuff out and sharing it with people, and thankfully, I didn't fear a lot of what the people were saying because a lot of them were telling you the opposite information. It's kind of like listening to the government. Like if you're telling them, if they're telling you one thing, probably believe the other. That kind of nutshell. Darren says, "Is that your fish room?" It is. It's part of it. I was hoping to have it in horizontal, but I forgot to set that at the beginning of the live stream. I forgot they changed it, and I had to manually do it every time now. The video is the last fish room tour. No, definitely have not deleted any fish room tour videos of this place. Matter of fact, I'm glad you mentioned that because Fish Tank Barn has finally come out with his tour of this place, and it gives you a look inside of, like, that was probably the newest tour done, and we went through pretty much every tank. I was saying that I wasn't going to go through every tank, but we kind of went through pretty much all of it and showed it on his channel, which I just took over the camera and just gave you guys a tour instead of having to kind of push it along, because there's a lot to do, a lot to video. But that would be the last fish room tour, which that was a post. If you're talking about that I made a community post with um, Mike Howe's fish tank barn tour of this. So if you're looking for that tour video, if you go to my community page on my home channel page, it's right there. But I do need to do another tour with you guys. I think the last video I did was actually a tour of all what's back here, and I kind of showed a little bit of what was in here, not a whole lot, which I got another video that I shot that goes back here for you guys that I got to put together, and then we'll probably do something similar here in the fish room coming up, which is just kind of the cool things that are different going around. So instead of showing you guys like the same tank or something all the time, we'll just show you the highlights because there's enough tanks for that. Dean Stevenson says, "How do you tell the difference between pond snails and ram's horn snails?" So the ram's horn snails are more round and kind of spiral in. The bladder snails, pond snails, they're more like how to really describe it? They're more elongated and they spiral kind of long ways, not round ways. So their spiral is more elongated outwards. I'm getting wild around here. I don't know if y'all can hear that. Ooh, country be wilding in Florida. uh, How Spicy says, "That's a bummer. Your water pumps that aren't moisture proof." What? Yeah, I know. Beaver, what the heck? I saw now Beaver has a canister filter. I about puked a little bit in my mouth when I saw that. Like, oh no, if it's anything like their pumps. Sean Meyer says, "Do you have Malawi cichlids?" So I don't. I just have the Tanganyikan cichlids. Malawi cichlids, they need bigger tanks. Most of the Malawi cichlids, at least as far as I know. There may be some smaller Malawi cichlids I don't know about, but if I don't have a tank big enough, I'm not going to keep it. I'm not going to try to smash a bigger fish into like a 75 or something. And if a fish gets like yay big, then I'm gonna want at least a 125 for them. What's in the quote? Cooler says, "Heard you say you'd have your own spin on designing a filter before. Can I get a redirect if you discussed it in more detail?" So no, I didn't really discuss it in too much detail. Obviously, I can't do that. Giving it all away. That's been my problem through these years, as I just gave it all away. Which I don't really mind. But that I'm gonna keep to myself. There's some things I can have to myself. Andrew Goldfish says, "Hello, how goes the stream?" It's swimmingly. DM Aquatics, thank you so much for that $20 super chat. Really appreciate that, DM Aquatics. Says, have you had any fish or shrimp that can't live in a filterless tank or pond? So I haven't had anything that can't live in a filterless pond or tank. Now, with my barbs, I would normally run a pump in their tank, but they're out in the pond without a pump or any filter, and they're doing great. And I have kept them in a tank without it. I think a lot just depends on the size of a tank. Since they're in a 75-gallon, I don't know. For some reason, when they're more smushed in a tank, and that's a fish that likes to move and exercise a lot because they're just really fast and really social. It's almost better to give them a pump to, I guess, stay more active because they don't have the length of the 125 long they used to be in, which is kind of interesting to think about all this right now. Because that's what I love about these Q&As. You guys kind of put my perspectives and mind in places to accumulate like what all's happened throughout the years with all these different changes and new ways that I've been doing things myself personally with the aquariums. But because often, and I still do think that when you use filters, you're kind of putting your fish on a treadmill. If they don't have a space to like go relax for a little bit, like I couldn't imagine having to try to keep swimming while I'm sleeping. That's why you'll see a lot of different social behavior out of fish when you're not using a filter because they can spend more time being social than like worrying about surviving through a current. Some fish like current, but most fish don't care. I've never had an issue with it. And you could even have like the bigger fish. It's just having the right tank space for a fish. That's what's most important. Not that I have a problem with the filters because they have their jobs too. It's just a lot easier for me to maintain, keep, and do with the no filter. And this fish room, God, it's so lovely because listen, Karina, I have a mic on. I don't know if you can just hear the bugs out here. I hear no pumps. I hear no bubbles. Like it's absolutely quiet in here, real serene. Now I know a lot of people aren't that strong to be left with their own thoughts, but me personally, that's my favorite time is my alone time with my thoughts. 'Cause that's how I grow the most. Aquarium Fantasy says, "How many aquariums do you have now, Lucas?" So I think like containers of water, there's around 400, over 400 some. Fish Addict says conish. Yes, bladder snails are conish. That's a good way to explain it. But like actual aquariums, I think it's close to 300 around there. So just aquariums. Then you get into the tubs and everything else that jumps it up another 100 easily. Melwool, what's up? Says, how many rice fish to a heavily planted single species 10-gallon jungle tank? I have two types and wanted to make sure they are set for now. They are already producing eggs daily. So I would say if it's a 10-gallon jungle tank, so it's really grown out a lot, they do like their space to kind of swim towards the top. So saying that, as long as the top surface area is open more, you'll be able to have more space for them. But really, honestly, I don't know because I've got this little pond out by my fire pit that I have just been letting these rice fish go crazy on. And I think it's been like 9 months since I put them in there. and the amount that I got out of there was like 100 some. Now, being a 10-gallon, a group of six is good. Group of 10, 20 is kind of pushing it. You could do it because I've had a lot of babies in smaller tanks where I've had like 30, 40 babies in a 10-gallon. That got pretty decent size too. What is that flying around on me? Right on my face. It's making fish food. But yeah, I would say about that many. And if you're getting eggs daily, sounds like you'll be making your own to find out. I mean, really, you can put a ton of them in a small tank, but it's like how much space are they having? And you're going to have to overfeed the crap out of it to the point where that tank's going to become an algae tank because of all that excess nutrients that you're just trying to feed them on. So that's the biggest balance. Is so say you got that jungle tank, but you want a lot of fish in there, but it becomes harder to keep that real nice planted tank unless you're doing water changes. Water changes will dilute it. It will help you out as far as getting that excess that comes through your food that you're feeding that creates that algae. So if you're doing water changes, it will help with that tank. I think that's really important. But if you don't do water changes and you just keep feeding that tank heavy, it's going to be an algae magnet. Philly Cheese Aquatic says, have you tried the fairy moss? I feel like I've heard of it, but I can't really picture what it is. Can't really picture what it is. How, like the actual scientific name to it? Freshwater aquatics, what's your favorite invertebrate? Probably ones I don't have actually. Right now there is a those cartoon shrimp for saltwater. What the heck are those things called again? Like blood fire, or blood shrimp for the saltwater. They're like blood red. They're wild looking. And then the Sulawesi shrimp, which, funny enough, I don't keep any of them. And I'd probably do the orange eye green tiger. Give you one pair of angelfish. I don't even have angelfish, unfortunately. I used to have lots of angelfish. The only reason why I don't keep angelfish and really breed them out, one, there's a huge farm that does it out down here already. And two is the shape of them. So for like shipping and with the bags I use, um, I don't know. I just don't feel like they would ship real comfortably. So I don't like want to mush them in a bag just for a buck. I mean, granted, they can breed like crazy. If I were to ever like get into doing it and got like the right bags for them and stuff, I would probably get the red koi's though. They're awesome. Philippine blues are really cool too. Freshwater Quack says, do you have any saltwater tanks? So I have two 40s that have been set up on a stand for freaking probably like 6 months plus now, in the hopes that I would get to it at some point to actually turn them into saltwater tanks for those shrimp I was talking about. Fish addicts, I give them $100. That'd be probably a red koi angelfish. Those can get up that far. Mr. What's in the Cooler says, I'm super considering using some gutter as a HOB if I can feel comfortable with the weight. Yeah, you could potentially do that. It's just make sure you glue and seal it properly because I tried to make a gutter drain system one time and I didn't have the ends sealed off properly. And that just became a nightmare to where I just had to redo it and did it in PVC. But I probably could have glued it differently at the ends. When you're trying to build a fish room, do YouTube and a bunch of other stuff, it's hard to get outside of the box that you're in to look at like maybe more proper information or things that you could have done in hindsight. So I actually spend a lot more time doing that kind of stuff. It's a lot easier to build the future that way, at least for myself and my family. Houses of Pisces says, "How are the ropefish getting on? They're getting on good. They're doing good. Eventually, would like to get their custom tank where they have a new space at some point. They're getting on swimmingly. Started adding shrimp to their diet, which they've been loving." Andrew Goldfish says, "Can cherry shrimp survive with bosemani rainbow fish? I have a mono shrimp with them now. Lots of pearlweed and water sprite." So the Amanos and the cherry shrimp can actually battle out just as much as the rainbow and the cherry shrimp. So rainbows, boesmanis, depending on which ones you have, if you have the big boesmanis, they can easily slurp them up pretty well or rip their legs off. The smaller, like Lake Uter boesmanis, or the Lake Anteenho or something like that. Um, their mouths are a bit smaller, so you can get a little more chance of getting away with it. But I would say between both the rainbows and the monos, this cherry shrimp will have trouble doing too much, like surviving and or breeding and keeping up. It'd definitely be a survival tank for them. Bob S says some fish hate any water agitation like bettas and paradise fish. I guess most gouramis hate agitation, breaks up their bubble nest. Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of these fish can't even breed with filters and all that stuff. Matter of fact, I've got a pair of wild bettas just right over here that has a ton of babies in it. The Una maculata wild betta. Hello, Casper in Indiana. DM Aquatic says, "Do you think that they filter the fish breed less since there's flow?" So potentially, yeah. Most of the time, like some fish don't care. Rainbow fish don't care. Um, they might actually kind of prefer it. But a lot of the other fish, like tetras, rasboras, hatchet fish, Tanzanican cichlids, bettas, like what was mentioned, rice fish, all those tend to breed better without a filter. And, you know, not only is it just the flow, but it's also the sound that it makes and the vibrations that filters and things can make. Imagine, I don't know, some people like to sleep with a fan on, some people don't like to sleep with a fan on. And if you're constantly in a space where you just didn't like all the frequencies and voice or noises, it could not be the best. What's in the cooler? Says, to be honest, LRB in chat, I'm not sure how my living room tank exists. It's just a duckweed bog at this point. I don't know how the fish. If I start messing with it, seems more harm than good. Self sufficient. Exactly. Exactly. Like, this is what I try to teach and help people with is like nature has been doing this so long. That's why I can't take credit for it. Like the father fish method or Diane Walstead method. Like, no, it's really just nature's method. And you look out in creeks and small ponds and pools and stuff and how they exist as just bogs and water and how many fish get trapped in there and live in there. It's wild. It's wild. And it's almost like the more natural it is, the more self-sufficient it's going to be, for sure. So you get it, you're grasping it. This is what I'm trying to help people discover, because once they discover that, it really changes the game to fish keeping for them. You know, it really will change the game for you. It'll make your fish keeping hobby so much easier for you in the future to the point that you may want to expand. Like, that's how I'm able to keep this many tanks. I don't know anybody else. Man, my hair is getting crazy. I don't know anybody else that keeps this many aquariums by themselves without somebody else doing the work for them. The fact that I'm able to keep this many aquariums by myself speaks volumes on how well it really works and the time that it really takes. Because honestly, a lot of you guys who know me, like when I first started, I was grind all day, all night, live, eating, breathing, everything. YouTube, fish, was hardly sleeping. It was so hard on me, really stressful. Now, my life, to be honest, which I gotta apologize because I don't make as many videos as I do because I am spending time enjoying my family and thinking about the future, bigger moves, stuff like that, and maintaining what's going on. But it doesn't take a lot for me to maintain what's going on in here. Granted, a lot of it does get overwhelming sometimes as far as like what I got to build or like, but it's more like small stuff like hurricanes coming. Now I got to fix this. Now air conditioners acting up. Now I got to fix that. More other life stuff that I've got time to focus on than my actual aquarium. If I was only keeping like one or two aquariums or even 10 or 15, shoot, that would be so crazy easy. And I know that's easy for me to say because my mind is in a different space. And that's why I'm here trying to help you guys get your guys' minds into the space of thinking about nature and how it really reacts and acts out in nature. Small ponds, pools. I know a lot of us will read about rivers and things like that, but do we really understand what the river does during dry seasons opposed to wet seasons? Like sometimes the water is saturated, sometimes the water is diluted. It all depends on these cycles of the season. And nature has so many cycles within itself that it does for itself that the fish are more used to that we don't really know that happens in the aquarium hobby. So instead, we're sold a lot of the basics of it and try to get you a remedy on it, especially if it's like a residual revenue as far as like just the foam that goes or the carbon that goes into a filter canister or hang on the back filter. Which, that stuff all has its benefits because like filters are going to hold that beneficial bacteria in there. But they don't teach you how to like keep your filter dirty. They want you to clean it up and cause more problems for your tanks. But a lot of people are understanding it now. We've been doing this for a long time and kind of showing the ways. It's just not many have had the balls to do it, especially when it goes to talking against the grain. A lot of people are very corporate and get into that, like, oh, but I want to make this person happy over this or this company happy by what I'm saying instead of actually learning and doing it for themselves. Now, am I the black sheep? Yeah, probably. But at least I stay true to myself and help teach what I'm doing here to help you guys out with your hobby. I don't know why I started going down that road on that. That was a bit ranty. But yeah, it's amazing what nature can do. Andrew Goldfish says, I bought 3 female bosemani rainbows from the reef. How long should I quarantine them before adding them to my main tank with 8 males? I usually always give everything a month. And the reef, good place, good place. Would like to visit there again. Always loved the reef. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Brian the Pro says, don't know why my tank plants are being covered in algae. So do you get a lot of detritus or stuff that sits on them? Often that's what can feed that. And or if you have a lot of KH in your water. Those bicarbonates will create like a casing over your plants and the algae will grow off of it. Algae loves KH. That's why you see a lot of the really nice planted tanks, they're using RO with just like normally just GH booster, which that will limit you on which fish you can keep because some fish do require more KH. And Dennis Engel underneath says, Brian, if your plants are covered in the algae, then double your plants, which that definitely can work. That definitely can work because it can uptake those mineralizations a bit better and faster. Which I got a couple of videos just showing how that is, like showing examples of tanks that have a lot of plants versus tanks that don't have a lot of plants. And sometimes it can just be all in the lighting too. If you're just got way too much light on your tank for your plants, doesn't matter what you do until you turn down the lighting, that you're not going to beat your algae. Mr. What's in the cooler? I could see LRB fragging corals. I don't know. There's a lot of people in the coral game. That's a whole nother ball game too. I've spent so much time just on freshwater, which I've learned a lot about saltwater with this hobby and talking to people in the industry because, I could be at these shows like Aquashella and the Aquatic Expo to where, I've seen a lot of the stuff in the freshwater side that, I do venture over to the darker side of saltwater. They call it that because they don't have their lights on hardly over there because they want to present their corals. I don't know. I'd be really surprised if I got into that though. But if those shrimp had like some corals they really did good with, who knows? Maybe I get one of them fancy little coral fragging saws and be in business. Aquarium Fantasy says, how are the mascara barbs? They're doing good. I was hoping when Jimmy came by, we would do a little something with them, but he will be here next month, and maybe we'll do something then. I gotta move them, but I really don't have anywhere to move them. And with that basket, I don't want to just like move the basket in and out because if they're flopping around on it, they could hurt themselves on it. I got to figure out how I'm going to approach that. And I'm just not in a hurry to stick them in a tank that's a lot smaller than what they're in right now. I kind of feel bad. I'm going to have to bring them in for the winter. Or I could get real risky and try to overwinter them, but I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Wanderer in Spirit says, how many CBDs can I safely ship in a 10-inch breather bag? I would say 5 tops. I usually do 3 or 4, depending on the fish. Andrew Goldfish says, any tips on combating staghorn algae? Hydrogen peroxide, just a little dab on it, or just pull it off. Honestly, because staghorn algae, it'll usually just grow a little bit somewhere, and if you pull it off, it doesn't really like spread out like green hair algae and that other algae will do. Staghorn usually just kind of stays in the spot. Doesn't get too crazy. What can I feed my plecos? It depends on your plecos. Some are more carnivorous, some are more herbivore, and some are in between omnivores. So it depends on the pleco. Yeah, I knew what you meant. Wandering spirit, 6 by 10. I was thinking more 5 by 10 because that's what they really measure, like 5 by 9 or something. Ultramagnetic says what? Because I use the same breather bags normally. Ultramagnetic says, what fish food would you use if there was no more tetratropical granules? That's a great question. And so many people try to give me their fish food. It's insane. Um, I really don't know. I really don't know. Because if I did know, I'd already have like a backup for it. Flake food, definitely out. It's got to be something granule. And nobody really makes the granules like tetracolor tropical granules. Like you'll get the brown granules, but that could be more problematic for me when I'm feeding so many tanks. And like if I had excess of it, I wouldn't see it until it fungused, and then by then that would create work to where I'd have to clean out the tank because fungus food is so bad for your fish. And big reason why I like the tetracolored tropical granules because I can see them. I've actually my Chewy order actually doubled up on sending them. I don't know why it sends like 2 a month now, but I've just been letting it roll and stocking up on it just in case there was no more tetratropical granules. But there is like um I don't know. I think there is some cleaner foods out there. I kind of liked keeping fish simple's food. That bug buffet, mostly the ingredients, but I think there's still some work on getting the granules to stay more granulated. But as far as the ingredients, that would probably be my backup. If it was actually, because the problem with it is it'll kind of powder out, or at least it did when I first tried it. He may have changed it and fixed it all by now. But then that would get kind of costly because that stuff's not cheap either. Coming from Australia. Still not that expensive either, though, considering it's like all natural ingredients. Literal bug buffet. Ken Turnley says, how many aquariums do you have? So, actual aquariums around 300, containers of water 400 plus. Futuristic Shark says, can I ask a few guppy questions? Yes, definitely can. Just make sure you put a question mark behind it so I can tell that it's a question mark. Bob S says your fish keeping methods have changed dramatically over these years. Used to do crazy amounts of water changes at inverts. RO seems much different these days. It is. It's a lot different. A lot different. But there's pros and cons between all that. Like when I was doing the RO and remineralizing with GH and all that stuff, I could keep the plants a lot better because I didn't have to deal with the KH so much. But and then the water changes, the oxidation would help with the algae and just keeping plants growing and going. And like the plants that I have on my website are like the survivors of all those plants that don't need any of that. They can get away with all without any of that. But I'm glad I've gone the route I have for sure. Steve G says he took the red pill. I have red pill, blue pill. I'm way out of space by now. Dennis Ingalls says, what is your fish load on a 40-gallon breeder and how much or often do you feed? So it depends on the fish, obviously, the size of the fish, the type of the fish, the behavior of the fish. 40-gallon breeder, you can fit a lot of fish in. I mean, I've got 20 gallons that have more fish than most of my 40-gallon breeders. Let me put it that way. And it's mostly due to what the 10s and 20s are used for compared to what the 40s are used to. So I haven't like maxed out loads of 40 gallons. Trying to like think of all of them. But I mean, you can do quite a bit. Now with air, you can do more than with a filterless, but it's different. Like different behaviors out of the fish. The fish are going to act different. The society hierarchy is going to be different. So it's really hard to tell. Like if you're doing tetras, you can do like 100 of them. If you're doing like dwarf neons, you could do like 40 of them. If you're doing like bigger rainbow fish, like a Chilnothernia or a Glossolepis maculosus or something, you can do like maybe 10 or so because it all depends on how they're going to interact with each other. CBDs, you could do a bazillion. Rice fish, you can do a bazillion. Well, you can sit there with like hundreds of babies in a 40-gallon too, but just due to how nature works, it's a fishy fish world out there. You're never going to keep all 100 of what you breed out. It doesn't happen, filter or no filter. That's why fish breed in numbers. It's a numbers game for fish. DM Aquatic says, to LRB, I am convinced I am pulling the plug on the air pump today after I do water changes. Yeah, just keep an eye on your fish. If you see them like sucking for air or something, your stock load might be too big and or the beneficial bacteria load is not big enough. But you'll love it. Like once you start going down this road and learning what the fish can really do with these kind of tanks, it's a game changer. It's a game changer. And it's kind of crazy. Like I will be honest with you guys, I feel a bit jaded because I was like really popular, getting a lot of praise through the fish community when I was doing something, when I was doing fish keeping a certain way, more towards their style, which I was still kind of doing differently in my own way. And they did like that. But when I totally flipped and started doing it this method, like crickets, crickets. So many people just quit following me. They just didn't understand it. They just thought I was being this, that, or another thing, or hiding things and stuff like that. And I do feel a bit jaded on it because I knew what I was doing, but a lot of people didn't understand what I was doing. But the only thing I could count on was time. I knew if I kept this fish room long enough showing what I did and the proof in the pudding, then I can help teach others to connect with nature and to make their hobby a lot easier for them. And really, that's what these YouTube channels are really supposed to be for. Not so much selling you guys stuff. Granted, everybody likes to buy things, but to be able to learn how to make it easier for you, especially when you're starting off new tanks. And a lot of people used to talk about, I mean, other big channels, how new keepers should never try to start this way, this, that, and the other. And it's quite opposite. Honestly, you would be better off starting a no filter way than actually a filter way. Because then you would understand later down the road that, hey, a filter, dirty filter makes more sense than trying to over sterilize my tank. Futuristic Shark says, like, one of my Moscow blue female just gave birth, and it's my first time taking care of the young. I separated the babies from the rest, and I'm going to start feeding them the boiled egg yolk. Is it good? A lot of people swear by that boiled egg yolk. I personally have not used it. Just make sure um, that the tank that you have them in has enough beneficial bacteria to eat up the waste and protein and things that the baby guppies might not eat, because that could foul up your water quality a bit quicker than say like just a dry flake food would be. Now with the baby guppies, you don't really whatever you're feeding the adult guppies, as long as you can crush it up small enough to where their mouths can eat them, which baby guppies are actually pretty good size. You should see the size of a baby rainbow fish compared to a baby guppy. Like they're 100 times bigger. So if you can just get the dust of whatever food you're feeding the adults, that should be a lot easier for you than having to boil egg yolks and stuff. But a lot of the old timers, they used to. That's what they were all about. Mr. What's in a cooler as a gamer? I must say this hobby in space is very gate kept. There's most assuredly a meta. LRB is a meta breaker. No, yeah, there is a lot of gatekeeping. Well, a lot of it too depends on the motives of the person to why they try to create certain narratives. Some people create those narratives or try to drive certain narratives because, hey, maybe they got a new filter they want to sell you. And so they definitely don't want to support somebody who does a no filter and or even discuss what that person does. And a lot of it probably isn't gatekeeping as well as the fact that they just don't know any differently too, because we're taught certain ways, especially in the aquarium hobby where it's Operation Mockingbird. One person says something, another person mocks it, vice versa. And not as many people actually take the time and or get far enough down the rabbit hole to be like, oh wait, what are we really doing here? Because a lot of it's just taking yourself to that outside perspective to understand. Aiden says, what is your opinion on this way to run a filter on a timer? Thanks for great content, mate. Um, trying to think of why there would be a benefit to putting it on a timer. Really can't think of any, and it's mostly like either should just either have it on or have it off, because what you'll probably get more out of having it on a timer is probably imbalances, just mostly due to atmospheric air exchanges, and could potentially cause more algae growth because there's not a consistency there. And this is all potentially as far as that goes. I honestly don't think it would hurt anything else beyond that. The only reason why I like the no filters, a big, well, not the only reason, but another big reason why I like the no filters is the fact that microorganisms like cyclops and sea shrimp, little things like that, they can actually coexist more into those environments, which create food cycles. But as soon as you kick that filter on, then it disturbs all that. And filters are a disturbance in your aquarium. So, say your fish gets used to hearing like a humming noise. If it's always there, they're going to be used to it. But if it's kicking on here and there, it could potentially scare them too, depending on the fish. A lot of that depends on the tank. Futuristic Shark says, how often does a female guppy give birth being impregnated once? So they actually, whether they're impregnated once, they can actually hold up to 3 packs of sperms that they can use down the road, which will take about 3 months for them to clear it all out. A month for each 1 pack that they use, a sperm that they can hold on to. Christina Morris says, Lucas, how are the red-tailed mollies doing? So they're doing great. They're actually right here. And we are over the hour mark, so I'm sorry if I haven't had a chance to get to your guys' question. God, there's a lot of them too. I wish I could. But I still got to eat. And LRB Aquatics, how about the name and model of those pumps? Chia Pet, I don't know if I need to get in my email and email them to you. There is a guy that works on pumps around here that I may just have come by and just be like, okay, you're just kind of overlooking things, because he's like a pro at doing that. And see what he says first. I just haven't really wanted to break into one yet. And I do have the manual. I guess I could have got it for you. Where are you guys? Now you guys are all hiding here. You can see them moving the water, but you can't really see them well because a lot of these leaves starting to turn the water a bit tannic. So I should put some of the well water in here just to kind of raise the KH in it from the tannins and the softness of the rain. That way it keeps some KH in there for them. But they're in here, getting to be a lot of them. Still letting them grow out. And I'm actually going to have a lot of footage of like these tubs. I shot a bunch of footage yesterday. That'll be coming out for you guys, long form and short form of what all's in here. Which I know I did a video recently, but then we had the hurricane and things have changed quite a bit out here. Well, a little bit. And wanted to just show you some highlights and cool things of what was going on. But I'm going to hop off here. I got to get back to it. I appreciate you all hanging out. Hear me rant and ramble about aquariums. So crazy how deep in this rabbit hole of aquariums I got myself into. But I appreciate you all joining me for the journey. Support me through this journey, because without you guys, we would not be understanding aquariums as much as we do, and teaching other people about them and just getting in touch with nature and making life easier for people, because that's all we can hope for each other, is to make life easier for each other. That way we can all live better qualities of life. I hope that all for you guys. So I appreciate you. And saying that, till next time, everybody, peace. Have a great one. Dun 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 dun.